I've got a confession to make. I'm a professional speaker, but I really didn't know the extent of really how big the MPI IMEX conference was. And so when I got here, I was blown away. I got to be honest, I'm blown away by the number of people, by the power of the event. And so when I checked in, I threw my bags in my room and I went down looking for the exhibit hall. And I had a hard time finding it. So I asked a hotel employee, I said, how do I get to the exhibit hall? He said, well, you take a right here, you walk down that hall, and you just keep going south. I said, go south? He said, go south. So I went south. I kept walking down the hall, still couldn't find it. Saw a lot of people with badges on, couldn't find the exhibit hall. So there was a woman who was emptying the trash cans. So I said, ma'am, how do I get to the exhibit hall? She said, keep walking south. So I kept walking south. I finally came to the Visit Mexico booth. They said, hola, amigo. I said, oh, heck, I went too far south. I'm a firm believer that if you can't create an emotional connection with your customers, you're going to lose them. I'll never forget my first day at work at the Green Hills Grill. It was 1994. I was the University of Southern Mississippi's newest business school graduate. I'll never forget walking across that stage. I shook President Aubrey K. Lucas's hand and I headed home to my hometown of Auburn, Alabama. Has anybody ever heard of Auburn, Alabama? War Eagle, what? Roll Tide. Y'all let anybody in this conference, won't you? So a lot of people say, well, you went to Southern Miss. You grew up in Auburn. Why didn't you go to Auburn? I did go to Auburn. It's a great year, too. But I remember walking into my parents' bedroom a couple of days later, and I spoke the words that every parent longs to hear from the new college graduate. I said, Mother, Father, thank you. Thank you for teaching me the value of an education. Thank you for teaching me how to set a goal and see it through to the end. Now I'm moving to Nashville to become the next Garth Brooks. That was not the conversations my parents had prayed for. That was certainly not the conversation they had paid for. So after a long discussion, my father realized that I was serious about turning my passion into a profession. And he said, son, I will support you in spirit. Get a job. And so I got a job at a little restaurant called the Green Hills Grill. I'll never forget hitting Nashville. I was driving into the city and I realized that Nashville, Tennessee has something that my small town of Auburn, Alabama did not have, and that was a lot of traffic. How many of you come from a smaller town? Anybody? Yeah, you come to a big city and all of a sudden you're like a fish out of water. And that's the way I was. I had semi-trucks on my left, semi-trucks on my right, and I was just trying to keep it in between the lines. Scared to death, so I took the first exit I could. Took a left, right, another left. Next thing I know, I'm downtown Nashville, Tennessee. Now, if there's one place that I wanted to be less than on that interstate, it was driving through downtown Nashville. So I took the first road I came across, and next thing I know, I'm going the wrong way down a one-way street. Quickly realized my mistake, and so I was getting ready to pull over and turn around when all of a sudden I see blue lights in my rearview mirror. Now, I know we have some international folks in the audience. Blue lights means you're in trouble. So I pulled over and I did the first thing that many of you do when you get pulled over by the police. Put my seatbelt on. Police officer walks up to my car. He knocks on my window. He said, son, you know why I pulled you over? I said, yes, sir, I sure do. I said, I'm sorry. I got lost. I got confused. I'm new to town. He said, you don't say. He said, well, at least you got your seatbelt on. I said, yes, sir. That's the first thing I do when I get in the car is put my seatbelt on. He said, you always hook it through your steering wheel like that? I was signing autographs early in Nashville. I got a job at the Green Hills Grill the first day at work. I'm sitting in the back room taking a menu test with 3 other brand new servers. I remember the general manager, his name was Brian. He walks in the room, he looks at us, speaks 3 words, and then he walks out. He didn't say, don't be late. He didn't say, don't drop dishes. He simply said, remember their names. You see, the Green Hills Grill, in my opinion, was one of the best restaurants in Nashville. 80% of the time, there was a line out the door. They did zero advertising. Can you imagine people lining up for you and what you do, and you don't have to advertise? That was the Green Hills Grill. I used to wonder, how can a restaurant be this successful and do no advertising? Must be great food. It's fair. A lot of restaurants have good food, though, great food even, and people don't stand in line to get in. Great service. It's all about service. Yeah, service is important. Good service, prompt service is important, but that's not why people stand in line. The success of that restaurant came down in my mind to one person. Her name is Mrs. Stevens. Mrs. Stevens used to come into that restaurant every day at 4 o'clock. She'd sit at the same chair, at the same table, ordered the exact same thing. Hot fudge brownie, ice cream on the side, black decaf coffee. Every day. 4 o'clock, I'd look up at the hostess stand. There she was, sitting at the same chair. She'd sit at the same table, order the exact same thing, hot fudge brownie, ice cream on the side, black decaf coffee. We got to know Mrs. Stevens because if there's any time in the life of a restaurant that's less busy than others, it's 3, 4 o'clock. So we'd stop by and chat with her, say hello, find out how her day was going. One afternoon, I looked up at the hostess stand, and there she was. I realized that I was serving her that day. Had her coffee waiting on her when she sat down. Put her brownie order in. I delivered her food, and after a while, I stopped back by to check on her. I said, you know, Mrs. Stevens, we sure enjoy seeing you in here every day. My goodness, you must love brownies. You come back every day. And that's when she put her fork down. She looked up at me, and she smiled, and she said, Patrick, I don't come here for the brownie. She said, Patrick, I come here because of you. And I come here because of Doug and Bridget and Gail and Steve. And she began to point out all the servers on the floor that day. And that's when her eyes misted over. And she simply said, y'all make me feel so special. You see, the restaurant, the Green Hills Grill, had amazing food, had amazing service, but people came back 2 or 3 times a week, over and over again, not just because of the food, not just because of the service, but because they knew they're going to be greeted and treated as friends. Who are your Mrs. Stevens? Who are the people you serve? We have people who are meeting professionals here. We have people who work with hotels and resorts and all aspects of the industry. But the question I want to ask you, and I want you to walk away with today, is who are your Mrs. Stevens? Who are the people that you serve? What are you doing in their minds to become what my 7-year-old daughter now has coined as being rememberable? I don't know if rememberable is a word, but since it's on that sign out there, hopefully it's going to be a part of your vocabulary by the end of the day. You see, rememberability is that intangible quality that exists between us and our customers. It creates loyalty. Rememberability is what fills convention halls. Rememberability is what fills resorts. Rememberability is what gets people coming back year after year after year. There are 3 mindsets that I want to share with you today to establish and build rememberability in the eyes of your customers. But before I do, let's talk about it in a different light. There's nowhere that rememberability is more prevalent than being in love. How many of you here by a show of hands are in love? Okay, one guy just said, yeah, I am. That's okay. It's not a multiple choice question. You either are or you're not. I'm in love. I'm in love with a beautiful woman. I'm in love with a sweet-talking Southern woman. How many sweet-talking Southern women out there today? There's one. I see one. There's Lori. There's 3. Okay. So for those of you who are not sweet-talking Southern women, for those of you who are not from the United States, let me give you a little education on what sweet-talking and Southern is. There's a difference between sweet-talking Southern and sly, but it's very small. I'll give you an example. I was driving past Lowe's Home Improvement Store not long ago. Lowe's Home Improvement Store is a North Carolina company. I am from North Carolina. That's where we shop. And so I was driving with my wife, and I told her, I said, you know what? I forgot to pick up that can of paint. She said, well, pull on into Lowe's, darling. I may find something I need. So I walked into Lowe's for a quart-sized can of high-gloss white paint. And I walked out of Lowe's with a receipt for 1,200 square feet of new carpet. I got no idea how it happened. It happened so fast. We get home. I'm standing at the foot of our stairs watching the old carpet that is ascending the stairs. I'm thinking it doesn't look that bad for 25-year-old carpet. But the new carpet was coming in 2 weeks. My sweet-talking Southern bride looks up at me, and she's 5 feet tall. She said, "Darling, what do you hate most about painting?" I said, "Well, I guess trying not to drip on the carpet." She said, "I'm so glad you said that. What other time are you going to be able to paint and not care if you drip all over the carpet?" I painted 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a hallway. You know what does not go with freshly painted bedroom walls? Old bedroom furniture. I spent over $10,000 on a can of high-gloss white paint. No, I've not always been as lucky in love. I want to play you a song I wrote about being in love. I tell you, I've not always been a man in love like I am now. There's a time when I was a single man, living the life of a single musician, Nashville, Tennessee. I had my share of relationships, some good, some bad, some train wrecks. I want to sing y'all a song about a train wreck. I like to call her Becky. Now, I'll tell you how we met. I was playing at a club one night, not near as nice as this one, and I see her walk in the back of the room with her friends. I noticed her instantly. She was tall, had long blonde hair, had on a pair of leather pants. She smelled like a brand new BMW. Before I knew it, we were talking and we were on a date, then another date. Then we were head over heels, madly in love for 2 weeks. She had a habit I couldn't get used to. She was too affectionate in public with other men. Now, my philosophy is you do me wrong, I'm going to write a song about it and spread it all over the country. Her faded sweater's all she left behind. Fading scent reminding me of happier times. She's run off with someone new. Now this sweater's all I've got to see me through. Whoa, nothing cleans a toilet like cashmere. Nothing scrubs the bowl like what I've got. I'm trying hard to wipe away her memory while I scrub those pesky stains off of my pot. Well, looky here, in my truck, she left her toothbrush. Well, I should send it to her new address. Now that's the Christian thing to do, but hey, my dog needs clean teeth too. Let her new boyfriend worry about her breath. Whoa, nothing cleans a toilet like cashmere. Thank you very much. You know, as a young Nashville songwriter, I would oftentimes find myself performing in downtown Nashville bars. How many of y'all been to Nashville, Tennessee? Oh, so they have some great places downtown. And I remember one night in particular, it was probably 15 years ago. But I remember it so clearly, as if it were yesterday, because there was a couple right on the front row that stood out. They stood out for 3 reasons. Number one, they were very old. I thought it was odd that a couple that old would be out at a honky-tonk bar that late. Number two, they were very country. You could tell very quickly that these people were not from the city. And number three, they were very loud. Like many of your grandparents, they would have a conversation right in front of the stage. They didn't care who was listening, and she didn't care what she said. I'd introduce a song, and I'd say something like this. This next song I wrote with my good buddy Mark McDonald. What'd he just say? He wrote that song in McDonald's. He'd say, no, he wrote the song with a man named Mark McDonald. Now, be quiet. Don't you tell me to be quiet. And this would go on right in front of me. I'd play the song. I'd go to the next song. This next song I wrote with my good friend Gabe Martin. What'd he just say? He wrote the song in a big old gay bar. He'd say, no, he wrote the song with a man named Gabe Martin. She'd say, oh, all right. Play another song. Come to the last song, the big finale. And I said, this last song I wrote for a very special woman in my life, but actually we're no longer together. I got to be honest, she complained more than any woman I ever knew, and she was the worst kisser I ever knew. What did he just say? Say he's getting ready to play your song. I talked about 3 mindsets to build rememberability in the minds of your customers. Number 1 is what I like to call the Cheers mentality. How many of you have seen the show Cheers? Of course you have. Norm and Sam and Cliff Clavin. We want to be where people see. Troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows. Of course, we know Cheers. Is there a better feeling in the world than to walk into a room, everybody turns around, they smile because they are genuinely glad that you're there? That's a powerful motivator. Let me tell you something. That's why people come to conferences. That's why people come to connect. They come to enjoy their profession, their industry. They come to see friends. It's a powerful motivator. My dry cleaners has the Cheers mentality. McPherson's Cleaners, Burlington, North Carolina. Anybody been there? Really? I'm quite impressed. McPherson's Cleaners, Burlington, North Carolina. I've been giving them my business for 11 years. As long as I've lived in North Carolina, I've taken my shirts to McPherson's Cleaners. The other day, when I was not on the road, and so I am put to work, and I was carrying a big load of laundry to McPherson's Cleaners. And as I was driving across town, I started to count the dry cleaners in between my front door and McPherson's. I counted 3. Began to ask myself, why am I driving across town to do business here? They're not as geographically convenient. They're not the least expensive for sure. And then I pulled up to the window. It's actually not a window, it's a sliding door. And Gary opened that door. He said, "Hey, Patrick, how you doing, buddy?" I said, "Hey, Gary." He said, "How's Robert doing? Did he score a goal in soccer last week?" He said, "Oh, I saw Meredith's pictures on Facebook of her ballet recital. She looks so cute. Has Jack," he's my 14-year-old, "has Jack smiled this month?" Some of y'all have 14-year-olds. He knows me. He knows my family. He knows how my wife Leslie likes her shirts. He knows that I like my shirts on hangers with no starch. I cannot stand the feeling of a starch shirt against my skin. Gary knows that. And if I forget the pickup slip, has anybody forgotten the pickup slip? How can we complete this transaction without the pickup slip? It's okay at McPherson's. He knows me. He's not so bound by process and procedure that he overlooks common sense. That's the Cheers mentality. Danny Meyer is the best-selling author of the book Setting the Table. He's a famous New York restaurateur. He says that service is the technical delivery of a product. Hospitality is the way the delivery of that product makes the recipient feel. I would suggest that whatever role you occupy within your hotel, within the meetings industry as a vendor, you're still all in the hospitality industry. Because when you can make your customers feel, that's when you create lifelong loyalty. You know, we all experience change in our industries. I know that you do. Especially with technology. Is anybody adopting a new technology currently, right now? Yeah. Sometimes, especially when these big initiatives come our way, I speak to hospitals a lot, and oh my gosh, they are just always undergoing a new initiative, and it scares people to death. Technology can be scary, but it can also be second nature in a matter of days or even weeks. My mother does not deal with technology very well. Maybe you have a mother like mine. I recently taught her how to send a text message. She used to say, "Don't you send me one of those text messages. You want to talk to me, you pick up the phone and you call me." Now that she knows how to text, I receive 100 random texts during the day. "What you doing? What'd you have for lunch?" You know, I'm like, oh my God. I liked her before she could use her thumbs. I had to teach her there's a difference between a butt dial. Y'all know what a butt dial is? Yeah. There's a difference between a butt dial and a booty call. Can you imagine how horrifying it is to hear your mama tell her Bible study? "I booty called my son twice last week." That'll scar you even at my age. But there's sometimes that, especially with social media, there can be a downside to technology. Has anybody ever had a Facebook stalker? I don't even know your name, we've never said hello. But you tag my pictures and you like my Facebook posts. Oh, we're not friends at all. Get off my Facebook wall, 'cause you don't know me. You became my Facebook friend. You endorsed me on LinkedIn. You instant message me, comment about my kids. Not sure how this came about, but man, you creep me out, 'cause you don't know me. For we must share a Facebook friend. Maybe we met in grade school years ago. Now you lurk around my Instagram and flood my wall with inspirational quotes. You retweet my tweets. You repin my pins. I've unfriended you, but still you find your way back in. Oh, please stop poking me. I freaking guarantee you don't know me. Thank you so much. You know, as meeting professionals and people who operate within that world, it's imperative that you create emotional connections with the people you serve. And I think for the meeting professionals in the room, there's no better way to do that than finding the right speaker for the right event. But the problem is, anybody can call themselves a speaker these days. It doesn't take a lot of time, talent, or resources to build a website. Take a couple of snappy speaker poses, and all of a sudden you're a professional speaker. Has anybody been burned by a professional speaker? Of course you have. Lori, don't say anything. That's who hired me. Of course you have, because there's so many people out there. Wouldn't it be wonderful, amazing, if there was a product on the marketplace that would eliminate the risk of hiring a bad speaker? In the South, we say amen. Can I get an amen? Amen. There is such a product. I have it right here. I have scoured the world, and I have found the perfect product that will eliminate your risk when hiring the right speaker. Have you ever put together a conference, a convention, a convocation or collaboration of cohorts, and wanted to hire a professional speaker, but you could not find the right one for the job? You see, everybody wants to be a professional speaker these days. They say, hey, I can do that. I played football. What an easy way to make a living. What a glamorous lifestyle these people must lead. Flying all over the world on airplanes, making thousands of dollars for just 1 hour of work. But have you found that they don't have the time or haven't put in the time to develop their craft? They don't have the talent, inspiration, or inclination to build presentation skills, delivery, or content? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the wait is over. I am proud, excited to be introducing a revolutionary new product that will forever change the way you do business. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I give you speaker spray. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, with just 1 squirt of speaker spray, you can hire the speaker you have always longed to hire. Speaker spray is the in-your-face, no disgrace, leave no trace, communicatory facilitator of story and oratory. It's the no-holds-bar, success in a jar. Going to take you far and make you a star. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, success comes in cans, not in cannots. So get off the pot and buy what I've got. Any speech is within your reach with speaker spray. Create a speaker who will inspire the dire and light the fire. Create a motivational speaker. Good morning. My name is Zag Zagman, and I'm a motivational speaker. If you can look up, you can get up. Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Help me, help you, help me. Don't hire a speaker who lives in a van down by the river. Or how about a technologist? Now, from time to time, we all need a technologist, a technology guru. Good morning. Have you ever noticed how technology tends to come full circle? This morning I am introducing a new product that will revolutionize and change the way you do business. It's small enough to fit into your back pocket. and can instantly transfer your thoughts onto a tabular matrix for instantaneous recall into perpetuity. We call it the pro-longitudinal engravement notation contrivance and instantaneous letter maker, otherwise known as a pencil. Or maybe a celebrity speaker. Maybe you have $20,000, $30,000 extra in your budget. You want to bring in a celebrity because they will put butts in seats. Good morning. I'm going to need first-class airfare for me, my assistant, my product supervisor, my certified ego stroker, and my niece. I'm going to need to have 14 bottles of room temperature water, flat. I need all the little M's scraped off the M&Ms in my dressing room. I reserve the right to cancel up to 16 minutes before I walk on stage, and I also reserve the right to suck. Now, warning. Using 2 cans of speaker spray simultaneously can cause a cataclysmic clash of ego, which may result in regular appearances on Fox News. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you speaker spray from the makers of Meeting Professional Prozac, where 1 pill a day keeps the divas away. Thank you very much. That's okay. You can clap at that. It took me a long time to work on it. The first mentality is what I call the cheers mentality. The second mentality is what I call the extra inch mentality. The extra inch mentality is important and critical when building rememberability. How many of you grew up mowing yards as a kid? How many of you did it because you love the smell of fresh cut grass and working in the heat? Anybody? No. Somebody who loves you very much probably said, get out in the yard and mow the grass. It'll build character. And it does. See, when I was 12 years old, I mowed almost every yard in my neighborhood. Back in the 1980s, we didn't have these big landscaping companies that nip, tuck, and lipo-suck your yards. You had probably a 12-year-old kid like me walking around knocking on doors. I charged $10 for a small yard, $15 for a big one. Judge Nix had the biggest yard in our neighborhood. Had I known it would take 6.5 hours to mow, I probably would have charged him more than $15. But that's the agreement we came to. And so every other Saturday, spring through fall, I'm mowing Judge Nix's yard. Up one row, down the other. Had a self-propelled mower, meaning I propelled it myself. And all day long, up and down Judge Nix's yard in the 95-degree Alabama heat and humidity. One Saturday I'd been mowing all day long, and I finally was coming to the end. I could see the end of the row. I was already imagining pulling that peach knee-high soda out of my cooler and drinking it. And so I finally finished it, and I pushed the mower across the yard. And as I was pushing that mower across the yard, I looked back over my shoulder, and I saw that row of shrubs that the judge had planted that previous spring, and I forgot that behind that row was a strip of grass. Not very big, but I'd forgotten to mow it. I thought to myself, man, I should go back and cut that grass. Nah, I'm tired. I'm ready to go home. No one's going to notice it. You can't see it from the street. I kept pushing the mower to the curb. Look back over my shoulder. Man, I know I should go back and cut that grass. I'm already halfway to the curb. No one's going to notice. I sat down on the curb. My dad finally was coming to pick me up. Judge Nix came out, handed me 15 $1 bills. And my dad showed up, and I helped him get the mower in the back of the truck, but then he started walking around the yard inspecting my work. How many of you have a parent who used to do something like that? Of course. He walks towards those shrubs. I'm like, uh-oh, somebody going to notice. I see him walking over there. He looks behind him, sees that I didn't mow it, gave me one of these. How many of y'all seen one of these? Yeah, it does not mean, come over here, son, let me tell you what a great job you've done. It means you're in trouble, Jack. He said, son, you've missed a spot. I said, Daddy, I'm tired. He said, son, you're not finished. I said, Daddy, no one's going to notice that. He said, son, what do I always tell you? Don't ever do a job unless you're willing to sign your name. Are you willing to sign your name to this job? He said, all right. We walked back across the yard. He didn't say a word. I didn't say a word. I got in the truck. But then I saw my father pulling that mower, struggling with it, getting it out. He got the mower out of the truck. He pushed it across the yard, started it up, took 2 minutes. Cut that little strip of grass. He got back over to me. He said, "Son, has Judge Nix paid you?" I said, "Yes, sir." And I pulled out a sweaty handful of $1 bills. He said, "I'm so glad." Now go knock on his door and give it back. I said, "Say what?" He said, "Give it back. Boy, you don't get paid for incomplete work. I've been mowing all day long in the 95-degree Alabama heat and humidity. Now I got to give the money back because I missed this much." I couldn't understand it. I was so upset with my father, I wouldn't speak to him for a week. He didn't care. Wish my kids wouldn't speak to me for a week sometimes. Sometimes people say, "Gosh, Patrick, you travel so much. How can you stand to be away from your children?" It ain't that hard. I got to be honest with you. I get to a hotel like this, I pull that top cover off and do snow angels in the bed for about 10 minutes, enjoying the space. But I couldn't understand why my father would do such a thing until 25 years later, my wife and I moved to North Carolina. I bought a home, did some work on it, knocked out a wall, opened up space, painted the entire downstairs, discovered why they call it faux finish. If you're married to a sweet-talking Southern woman, you're going to paint it 4 times before you finished. But I was doing the little half bath downstairs, and it didn't seem like that big of a job at the time, but when I started scraping that wallpaper off and sanding the wall down, it became quite a job. Working all day long in that little bathroom, I finally finished. Cleaned my brushes up, put them away. I walked back in to inspect my work and to pat myself on the back. And then I looked down, If y'all look down here behind the toilet, you'd have noticed a patch of wall about that big that I'd missed. And I thought, no one's going to notice that. But it was as if my father had reached through 25 years of time and smacked me on the back of the head and said, "This is what I was trying to teach you." We've all heard the phrase, "go the extra." Yeah, that's not it. A lot of people go the extra mile. It's easy to identify. It's not always easy to do, but it's easy to identify. But what most people don't identify is the extra inch, that little bit extra that most people don't do because they think it doesn't matter. Most people don't do because they think it's not going to make a difference, or worse, it's not in their job description. But I can tell you, for the hotel people in the room, the difference between your property and the one down the street is not measured in miles. It's measured in inches. People have a choice of what conferences they go to. And oftentimes, it has nothing to do with the content, but it has everything to do with the coffee or whether or not you serve breakfast and all the little bitty things that people judge us by. The extra inch. We are known by how we meet expectations, but we are judged by how we exceed expectations. I thought I knew about the extra inch until I got married. And then I got a whole different education. You see, when I got married, I was 33 years old. 33 years old when you're 33 years old and you're just getting married, you've moved on from the stage in life where your mama says, "Son, when you going to get married? Give me some grandchildren." Now she just tries to convince her Bible study that you like women. I married a beautiful woman, but I also got a beautiful stepson on that day. Jack, he was 3 years old at the time. Jack is an interesting kid. I love him as if he were my own. We have pet names for each other. I call him Jackaroo. He calls me, "You're not my real dad. You can't tell me what to do." And sometimes he calls me Patrick. No, I tell you, he's a great kid. He's in the 9th grade now. And 2 years ago when he's in the 7th grade, my wife Leslie calls me and I'm on the road and she said, "We got a problem with Jack." I said, "What's the problem?" She goes, "I just got a letter in the mail. He has to take sex education this year in school." I said, "Well, what's the problem?" She goes, "It's going to scare him to death." I said, "Well, what can I do?" She goes, "You got to have the talk with him." I said, "The talk?" She goes, "The talk." I said, "I can have the talk." She said, "When are you going to do it?" I said, "Well, I'll do it on the way to school." You see, I drive the kids to school when I'm in town. And I dropped my 2 young kids off at Smith Elementary School. But then I had an 11-minute drive to Turrentine Middle School. And I can have the talk in 11 minutes. So I dropped the two little kids off at Smith, and I'm driving over to Turrentine, and I look over at Jack, and I said, Jack, understand you're taking sex education this semester. He said, what about it? I said, well, Jack, son, there comes a time in every man's life when, Jack, sometimes when a man and a woman, I panicked. I had no idea what to say. I didn't bring my notes. He looked up at me and said, if you got questions, just ask. My middle son, Robert, he's my athlete. When I'm not on the road, I'm following him around soccer fields. Oh, I love watching that boy play soccer. He's also my sensitive child, though. He's the one who calls me into his bedroom every night before he goes to bed. How many of y'all have a kid like this? They say, lay with me. Just lay with me. And it may be 30 seconds, it may be 5 minutes, but when he's done, he can say, okay, you can go now. And I just put my head on the pillow right next to his and rub his chest until it's time for me to go. I think that attachment started when he was 2. I bought him a little plastic lawnmower. Y'all know the plastic lawnmowers? They push it, they make noise, they make bubbles. It's real cute. His favorite thing in the world, oh, I miss these days. His favorite thing in the world was to follow right behind me when I was out in the yard, going out to pay the lawn man. It was just, it's precious. But then there's Meredith. Oh, for you daddies, especially with little girls, you know how they just wrap you up. She's 7 years old now. She's convinced she's going to be on America's Got Talent. She's asking me the other day if she should use a handheld mic or a headset mic. And I said, well, I didn't say this, but I'm thinking, let's work on singing first. We used to have this little thing that we would do where she would say, Daddy, let's kiss as if we were from France. And we kiss on the cheeks. We go, Yeah, it's cute, right? Until you get a call from the kindergarten teacher. Apparently Meredith's telling all her little friends that she's French kissing her daddy. Now, I love having children. It really defined who I am as a person when I became a parent. Defined not just what I do, but why I do it. And I tell you, it was a big change in my life when I became a parent. And so one way I embrace change is I write songs about it. I used to be quite the rounder till that blessed day that I found her. A wedding ring and a kiss and a short honeymoon. 60 days and the stick had turned blue. She told me it could take up to a year. She was wrong. Now my eyes are droopy and I'm cleaning up poopy and sleep is a distant memory. Can't play golf no more, buying Huggies at the store, put formula in my coffee. Now I love my wife and I love my life. There's nothing different I would do. But now I'd give $1 million for a day without hollers and a peaceful visit to the bathroom. Used to be so debonair, walking tall without a care. Never had a single hair out of place. But now I'm singing wiggle songs, warming bottles all night long, wiping baby puke off of my face. My wife and my boys fill me up with so much joy. Could not love them anymore. But now I think there'll come a time when I surely lose my mind if I see another purple dinosaur. Used to go to dinner and a show, candlelight and Merlot, then some smooching on the couch by the fire. Now it's chicken fingers, mac and cheese, kissing boo-boos on skin knees, peanuts out of nostrils with the needle nose pliers. I'm no longer in fashion, but brother, I got passion. Should write about us in Time magazine, call it One Day in the Life of a Husband and a Wife in the All-American Family. Call it One Day in the Life of a Husband and a Wife in the All-American Family. Thank you. You know, the last mindset that I want to share with you is what I call the lead the way mentality. And this is where loyalty really lies. Any Starbucks coffee drinkers out there? Of course. Starbucks coffee drinkers, you're an intelligent lot. I try to drink Starbucks coffee, but it's difficult for me to order if I don't keep it basic. You see, I made it 10 years in Nashville without paying $4 for a cup of coffee. But imagine my excitement when I was driving through Burlington, North Carolina, and I saw grand opening Starbucks. You see, my brother, who is still single, lives in Charlotte. He says, I couldn't make it in Burlington. You live with your wife, 3 kids, and a dog. He's single, and he'd give you 2 reasons why. No P.F. Chang's. And until recently, no Starbucks. But there it was, grand opening Starbucks. I pulled my minivan into the parking lot. I got out, I took the stairs 2 at a time. I was ready to become a Starbucks coffee drinker. There was a line that extended all the way to the door, so I stepped in line. I was surrounded by professionals, Elon University students, intellectuals. I knew that my uncomfortable feeling would disappear with the first cup of Starbucks coffee, so I get up to the counter and I get ready to place my order. Now, let me just say in all fairness to Starbucks, this story has evolved in my mind. It cannot certainly have happened the way I remember it, but this is the way I remember it happening. Welcome to Starbucks. May I take your order, please? Yeah, I'd like a cup of Starbucks coffee. What kind? Well, regular. He rolled his eyes. He pointed to a menu board above his head, filled with a bunch of Italian words, words like cappuccino, frappuccino, macchiato, late, latte. I get it now. Now, I had seen a lot of these words before, but I really didn't know exactly what they were, how they pertained to my coffee. So I just said, give me a frap. Can't I just get a plain cup of coffee? He rolled his eyes again. He pointed to a lonely urn on the other side of the counter. I call it the loser urn. Anybody else drink out of the loser urn? Yeah. He charged me $2.97 for that little cup of coffee, and I got to be honest, it didn't taste any better than the coffee I buy at the gas station down the street. I went back to my office, I was sipping on that coffee, I decided to go back the next day. This time, I read the menu board in advance. I didn't want to be caught unaware again. So I get up to the counter, welcome to Starbucks, may I take your order, please? I said, oh yeah, I want a cappuccino. He said, tall, grande, or venti, skinny or regular, foam or no foam? I said, say what? I mean, I know what tall is. I can figure out grande. We have Taco Bell in Burlington. But venti, that's the one that had me confused. I thought tall was tall, not at Starbucks. At Starbucks, tall is short. I know what skinny is. Got a couple definitions for regular. Had no idea what it had to do with my coffee. Let's talk about foam for a second. I'm a professional speaker. I get around. I've been to Myrtle Beach. I've walked along that beach and I've seen foam. Never thought about eating it. Right back where I was the day before, I said, just give me a plain cup of coffee. $2.97 later, I'm back at my office, sipping on that coffee, thinking this is not the way it was supposed to happen. But I've heard that the definition of an insanity is a man who tries the same thing over and over again, expecting what? Yeah, I wasn't going to be that guy. So I decided to go back to Starbucks the next day. This time I sat down. I listened. I listened to the experienced coffee drinkers order, the intellectuals, the professionals, the soccer moms. I made mental notes of their vocabulary, the syntax, the meter, and juxtaposition of phrasing. I created this order in my head that I felt bordered on poetry. And then I stepped in line. But I quickly discovered I'd been listening to the wrong people. I've been listening to people on diets. I've been listening to health enthusiasts, joggers. We got any joggers in the room? Yeah, don't ever listen to this man right here. He's probably going to lie to you. Joggers, because I got up to the counter. Welcome to Starbucks. May I take your order, please? I said, oh yeah, I want a double skinny. Double decaf latte. No fat, no whip, no foam. He said, you want soy? No soy. He said, is there anything else? I said, I'm just getting started. I want you to put that in a tall cup with a short straw. Make it extra hot. Give me one of those cute little cardboard cup holders so I don't burn my fingers. He said, is that all? I said, not even close. In addition, my double skinny, double decaf latte, no fat, no whip, no foam, no soy, tall cup, short straw, extra hot with cute little cardboard cup holder. I just gotta have a biscotti. Gave me a cup of hot skim milk and a cookie, tasted just like a doggy biscuit. Charged me $7.36. My brother was right. I ain't ready for Starbucks. But imagine my excitement when I saw that Burlington, North Carolina was getting a Hooters. I'm not even sure they serve coffee there. Do they, sir? No, I'm just kidding. That young man behind the counter, as I mentioned, that story has evolved somewhat in my mind, but this is what is absolutely true. He viewed his job as serving coffee. He viewed what he did within the confines of that space behind the espresso machine. When you lead the way, or rather when you point the way, you create one-time results. But when you lead the way, that's when you create a lifetime of results. As I close today, I want to mention that little restaurant that I talked about at the beginning of the presentation. Does anybody remember the name? Green Hills Grill. Thank you. You were listening. The Green Hills Grill. One thing that was reinforced over and over again to us as servers is that our customers were not numbers. They weren't a 4-top, a 2-top, a party at 12. They certainly weren't the tip at the bottom of a check. One thing that was reinforced to us is we were people serving people. I imagine that what you do is far more complicated and even important than what I did serving hamburgers to hungry customers. But when it comes down to it, we're all just people serving people. It's one thing I have to remind myself with my family sometimes is to put the numbers aside, put the calendar aside, put the phone numbers aside, and be with my family. As I close today, I want to close with a poem that I wrote called I Am Not a Number. I'm not a number, I'm a person. I'm not a number, I'm real. I have joy and hopes and sadness. I'm not a number because I feel. I'm not the cancer in room 311. I'm not the diabetic in 402. I'm not the 4-top in the atrium or the quaint 2.5 bath, 3-bedroom. I'm not the ADHD on the red hall or the low test score on the blue. I'm not a number. I'm a person just like you. I'm not a half percentage point or a margin call, the sum of pounds read on a scale. I'm not row 8, seat 32 or the commission on a sale. I'm not a case to be managed. I'm not the next in line. I'm not a double decaf mocha latte or a 20-year term life. I'm not a number. I'm a person. And I demand your respect. But if you treat me like a number is what you'll get. You see, a number won't stay loyal if there comes a better deal. A number knows no allegiance because a number cannot feel. Be kind to me. And I'll open my heart. Invite me in and I'll eagerly take part. Recognize my significance. Celebrate my individuality. Don't treat me like a number, and you'll have my loyalty. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Before I go, a lot of people ask me for a copy of that poem or where they can get stuff. And so I want to make this available to everybody. Everybody see that slide? If everyone wants to pull their phone out and go to kiwilive.com, put in Patrick Henry, I'm going to send you a bunch of free stuff. Songs, a copy of that poem, and a chapter of my book. So go ahead and put that in, and it's all yours. If you don't want to, that's okay too. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.